Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode on My Aligned Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Crone. I have my friend here, Kim Hébert, and I can't wait for everybody to meet you, Kim. We got connected this past spring down in California. We're both in the same mastermind, and it was a gravitational pull. I'm like, who is this person? Who's your husband? The four of us, me, you, Kayla, Darren, I felt like we just hit it off so well. I can't wait for everybody to meet you and learn more about you. Why don't you tell us where are you calling in from today and what are you grateful for?
So I'm calling in from Edmonton, Alberta. So
Whoop, whoop.
Canadian girl, which is really fun. And I'm actually originally from Vancouver area. I spent a few years in Courtney Comox, so I feel very connected. But it's really wild. That's where the four of us met was in Newport. We are so close geographically. I love that because one of my goals last year in the mastermind was making more Canadian connections. We have a
Mhm.
lot of American connections. So anyway, what am I grateful for? The obvious. I'm really grateful for the connection and friendship that has
Mhm.
sprung is a better word, let's say, from the four of us. I find it refreshing, expansive, fun, just all those things, and all four of us on the same level. In fact, I just want to mention something quickly. This morning, was it this morning? We were here. Darren's birthday was yesterday.
Mhm.
And this morning we're at the shop. I'm filming from the shop, and we have once a month we have a big day here. And Darren was just sitting back in the chair. I was in my other office, and I can hear this woman's voice singing happy birthday.
Gosh, is it Kayla?
I was like, who's the female singing? And it's not my grandchildren female. It's not like little grandkids. I was like, who's the female singing you happy birthday? It was Kayla.
Oh, that's amazing. Leave it to Kayla to be in the DM singing happy birthday to
Yeah,
people.
I love it. He
So
laughed, I
good.
laughed. And there's just something fun and refreshing about the two of you. So anyway, I'm grateful for that. And thank you for having me on your show. I'm really excited for it, for our conversation.
I'm excited too. I feel like there's so many ways this can go, so many different things we can talk about. Let's dive right into the fact that, so Kayla and I are a business partnership in the mastermind. You and Darren are a business partnership, but you're also spouses, right? And so let's dive right in there. Was this a crazy idea to go into business with your partner? Have you guys always, for everybody listening, have you guys always been in business together? Did you meet by being entrepreneurs, or is this something that happened like you're married and you're like, let's do something wild and crazy and start a business? Why don't you start us there?
All of the above. No. So Darren and we met in church. 32, we're coming up to 32 years. So we met in church. I have been always very entrepreneurial, but didn't really understand. My background is very different. I'm a street kid from East Van. So if you have Canadian listeners, most people will know. I'm a street kid, like foster kid, street kid from East Van. I didn't really understand business ownership, entrepreneurship. I understood opportunities. So I understood that need for freedom, a very high risk tolerance. Like that's just who I am because
Mhm.
of where I come from. Darren, however, was born and raised in business.
Mhm.
That's his experience. He has never applied for a job. He has never worked for anybody other than within his family. Him and his dad built their business. And so when him and I married, he was already in a family business with him and his dad. I was a very traditional wife. I longed for a family. That's what I wanted to do. I was working in sales and franchising actually when we got married. But what ended up in a different industry, in a popcorn industry, actually, I sold popcorn. You remember the old Tupperware? Do you remember that? You might be a little young.
I do
Tupperware
remember
parties.
Tupperwares. Yes.
Okay, Tupperware parties they used to
Yeah.
have. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So I sold a snack item. It was popcorn, and we brought it in. I worked with the founder and brought it in, and really, literally blew up in the
Mm.
home party industry. So it's my first real taste of sales and entrepreneurship, and not sales, just making money, but more impact and influence, and just
Right.
watching something grow. And we sold my region. I within a year, I had 7 people working for me. We did $1 million in sales in popcorn, in $4 popcorn.
That's
And
insane.
it is really insane. It's a crazy story. So when Darren and I met, but also my absolute dream was to be a mom,
Mm.
housewife, and so when we met, we're a blended family. And so it was almost like we were very like entrepreneurial about the family even. We have these kids, who's doing what?
Right.
You're already in this business. You have the ability to earn more income,
Mhm.
right? Somebody needs to manage the children. at that point. So I stayed home with them. I homeschooled them. We baked bread. We did morning devotion, like all of that kind of stuff. I did that for a number of years. But like I said, as the kids started to grow, I started to realize that there would be a life outside of them. And
Right.
so started to realize that, oh, there is going to be a time when I'm going to need to do something that's brings life and energy and desire and all that. And so I started looking, I was actually going to be a housewife, midwife.
Oh,
Yeah, I became a doula, that kind of stuff. But I ended up taking social work. And so I actually went into social work and I worked as a social worker so I trained as a social worker. I went into social work for 15 years before I retired. And it was the last 5 years of that journey that I started to buy businesses. So then I bought a couple businesses, and Darren still was in business with his family. He had bought in his family business.
okay.
I was working as a social worker. I had a couple other businesses. My daughters were supporting those because now they're young adults. And so that's how we came to be. So, in a lot of ways, Darren and I have always been entrepreneurial as a couple and what our dream is and our vision is. What
Hmm.
is your part? What is my part? What can I do? What can you do? It wasn't really gender roles, it was more what fits best. And so that's how it evolved. So that's how we ended up with three businesses, which this last business is our fourth one. And it's very different
Right.
because this fourth one. So in those other three businesses, he's had his siblings, like some of his siblings were partners. Our kids worked for him. Our kids worked for me. We've had cousins, nieces, nephews. We've had family business. We wrote a book on it. And so then when we retired from everything, I had a health scare 7 years ago, 8 years ago. I got diagnosed with cancer. Sorry, I don't want to I'm not skipping over the stuff. I'm just trying to get the timeline.
Hmm.
Changed some planning for us. So we started to liquidate the businesses, right? Liquidate some of our assets.
Hmm.
Retirement is going to move closer now. We're going to spend more time doing I call it recreationally retired, like e-bikes, drinking coffee, playing pickleball, visiting the grandkids, going on vacation, that kind of stuff. But we were really too young. Energetically, we were too young. So we retired all that. And about 12 minutes later, we were like, hey, I think we no sooner bought a property on the Sunshine Coast there that Darren's already posting in the community Facebook groups. Hey, I'm in town for 2 months. Anybody need any door work done?
Because that
He
was
goes,
the family business he was in with his dad. Yeah. Okay. So you retired for 12 minutes and then you thought, nah, this can't be for us.
yeah. And so for me, I have always worked in helping humans grow and expand, change their current circumstances in moving in towards what are their goals, dreams. I've done that my whole life. And so I really wanted to continue that. And I was going to coach entrepreneurs like a million other people because we weren't really going to do business anymore. And so I really had this desire to help people really just achieve and grow and move through the things that typically block us from thinking that what we really want isn't a reality. Like I really help people and I love that kind of stuff. And Darren just loves serving people and he loves making money. Like literally, if you're like, hey, dude, I need $5,000, he'd go like this, here, hold my beer. That's what I always say. So Andy's got a lot of physical energy. And so what he found is he found a way in this door business that we're doing now, something that he found a gap. And he said to me one day, he said, hey, I can teach people to make really great money doing this without
Mm.
breaking their backs, without being away from home for 100 hours a week like he was when my kids were young. And I said, I can really help coach
Mhm.
entrepreneurs. And we did not want a corporate business again. Like we did not want, we've already had that. And we said, hey, let's build this franchise system. And so this is our fourth business. So this is where it's fundamentally different. Is that this business is a creation from scratch whereas the other three were like, this is when you see toddlers playing together, but they're playing side by side. That's
Yeah.
how we were with the other businesses.
Right.
They were ours collectively, and we influenced one another in the operations or support or that kind of stuff. But I wasn't involved in his operations or
Mhm.
executive decision making. He wasn't involved in mine and those other. They were really just part of our bigger portfolio. And we each did what we were good at. And so this business, the one I'm currently in, we are a franchisor, which means we own and have built the entire franchise system. We're the founders of the business and are selling franchise territories for other people to create a legacy, earn income, build a team, get into entrepreneurship. That's what franchising is about. But him and I now are partners in creation, and
Mm.
that has brought a whole different challenge to both our relationship as
Mhm.
husband and wife, as well as co-founders in a business. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I think like from my perspective of being in business with Kayla, like being a 50-50 business partner with somebody, that comes with its own set of challenges, but a longer list of rewards. But we're not married. We don't share a household together. And then on the other side of that, my husband and I are both entrepreneurs. So we're under the same roof. We're running different businesses. And one of the things, like Kayla is arguably one of my best friends, and then Jeff is also. And one of the things that I notice is we talk about work a lot. It's an active commitment to say, let's not talk about work. How do you find that with you and Darren?
There's always, because this is our fourth family business, and we actually co-authored a book called Awkward Family Dinners. This is not a plug, but that's like the name of it, because you do that. You're like, okay, we're going to have dinner, but we're not going to talk business. But when 75% of your guests or your environment you all share that commonality, it's
Mm,
really hard to control that. And then it can be really controlling, like in a group, right? No,
right.
nobody's gonna talk. So then you're the one controlling the conversation, and that doesn't feel good either. And the one thing Darren and that's the premise of our book, and it's one of our core values here in Your Gurus, but it's something that we talk about a lot, is business is very personal. I know that there's business is business and personal is personal. I'm sorry, you just can't compartmentalize. And especially a when you're a founder, when
Hmm.
you are building something with somebody, it is very personal. It's your energy, it's your resources, it's your thoughts. It's not all of who you are. It's not where your value is, but it is definitely a very personal process, I think, in building business,
Hmm.
because you have to also have a level of personal development and growth that goes along with it in order. So to me, it's very personal. So to answer your question, long-winded way, it's very different now when it's just Darren and I building the business and Darren and I living at home. We don't have a whole bunch of kids or other things that are allowing us to come together for other reasons. And there are times him and I almost have, it's not quite, but it's almost a safe word, right? There
Hmm.
are times when, because I do a lot of the business building, I'm a lot in my masculine and drive and strategy, a
Yeah.
lot more in this business. And it needs it. But sometimes that can push too hard. He's too tired. He works a lot in the customer end, franchise partners, generating revenue. He's networking, he's all that. And so he can be tired. So he's not doing the meetings and the marketing and the strategy. He's the one integrating it all, deploying it all. And we're coming up with all the plans. And so sometimes my drive and me, if I'm too much, I have to be really aware that I'm
Hmm.
like so much in my masculine that I'm driving. And then sometimes he'll just say, can we just not talk about the business right now?
Yeah.
And I've learned to be like, absolutely.
Yeah. Just ask for what you need and then honor that.
Yeah, or sometimes I'll say to him, like, there's something going on within the business we have a big decision to make. I need your attention. This conversation, not just like chatter. Is there a good time to chat where I
Mhm.
can have your attention?
Yeah.
Right. So I've gotten better at that. I would say on his end, he treats me, sometimes he forgets that I have my own responsibilities in the business. And so he'll phone me 100 times a day for stuff that I find unimportant and irrelevant to
Hmm.
my end. And so sometimes I can be very dismissive with that and be like, I don't really care, dude.
You do you.
I am not. Please, can you find a friend or somebody to talk to about the door stuff? I don't care.
Yeah. Phone a friend, but it's not me.
So it
Uh,
definitely does have its challenges. But even like our team, some of them are family,
yeah, right.
right?
Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of dynamic there of like interpersonal relationships mixed with business. And I agree that, yeah, when you have the majority of the people at the table and that is their common
Connector.
denominators, like your entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs are just wired another way, then it's, yeah, that's bound to come up in conversation. I'm
But I'm
curious.
going to give you, before we move on, I want to talk about, I'm going to give you just a quick a synopsis of awkward family dinner with
Please
family.
do.
Okay. So last night was my husband's 65th birthday, and we didn't do anything huge, but we have lots of kids and lots of grandkids. And so I messaged them all and I said, everybody go to this restaurant, whatever, at 6 p.m. I'm bringing dad at 6:50. It's mandatory appearance, right? Everybody has to be there. This is your father's 65th. I don't give a crap if you're tired, blah, blah, blah. It's rush hour, blah, blah. I don't care,
Mhm.
right? I'm not cooking dinner. You don't have to hang out in my house for 8 hours. Just come have a burger with your dad. And so in our family, with our four kids, their partners, and us, we have two door companies. the one my husband originally founded with his dad.
Right.
Okay, so half my family still works there. My
Okay.
daughter, my grandson, son, my son-in-law, as well as the nephew that bought it. And then the other half of us work for this door company.
Mm.
And these two door, we got sued by our family business. So some of the people that are right close in our family were part of that whole drama, which is something different. So when you want to talk about awkward family dinner, so last night we show up to dinner. Darren's wearing his door gurus. Our one son, who's joining us in the fall, he's wearing his door gurus. Other members are all wearing their Abe's Door Service. And nobody talks to each other about those businesses. So you can feel it in the air.
Oh, absolutely. I need to pick up awkward family dinner because I'm sure it's going to be very entertaining. What I was going to ask is your seasoned entrepreneur. It's not like this is your first rodeo. It's not like you're in your first few years of being an entrepreneur, maybe of this particular business, but you've been doing this for a long time. And you and Darren have a book, you have a podcast, you're in the mastermind that I'm in. I'm pretty sure you're in a few other masterminds or have coaches and these sorts of things. What would you say to people who are listening about why you have these other like omnipresent marketing materials, such as a book and a podcast, and why you still commit to joining masterminds and that sort of thing when you've been doing this for years, right? I think there's a perception out there of if I just hire a coach, I'll learn what I need to learn and then I'll go about it and I'll build my business and I'll be good to go. Or if I do this for 5 or 10 years, like I've got this dialed, who needs a podcast or why have this other marketing material? What's your why behind having these additional assets and investments as an entrepreneur, as a business owner?
That's a really good question. I think Darren comes from a different type of business building. He comes from, so just for your listeners, my husband is 65 and his first business that he built with his dad, he was in for literally 48 years like that. But they built business very differently back then. It was yellow pages. It was cold
Right.
calling. It was in commercial and industrial. You didn't really market back then. You just did the work, you saw whatever. So we have the podcast and the book because we like to share our experiences. We like to bring to light that, especially in family business, there's a lot of secrecy. There's a lot of awkward, I call it tongue biting, where you're biting your tongue. You can see the blood dripping down, but you can't say anything, right? Your mouth is full of shit and you're still smiling. There's a lot of that in family businesses. And so for us, some of the reasons why we have some of those extra things are to allow us to share our experiences for people to hopefully come across it and be like, oh, wait, this resonates with me, right? Especially if you're a stakeholder in a family business of any kind, it's a different experience. You call Nepo babies and succession planning and job promotions and all those kinds of things are just so different. And part of the reason why we have those extra things is for us to be able to share our experiences. One of the reasons why we invest in masterminds, and this mastermind, again, masterminds was something Darren was not familiar with, but it was really to help us. So we've never done it to get clients. I think number one, in this day and age, if you're investing in masterminds, you have to figure out, first of all, what your objective is. Is this a client acquisition strategy?
Right.
Just totally fine. Or is this something for me? To help me grow. When you have big dreams and big visions and you're putting them into action, you will inevitably face hard times, whether it's life, whether it's unexpected economic changes, just things just don't ever it's not linear or there's times where you just get tired. Maybe you and Caleb have been doing it for a while and there's tiring moments in it. There's tiring moments when you are self-employed. And when we joined the mastermind that you're in, we joined it for our own support so that people can hold us to the vision that we set and that we want. So that because
that accountability
to the vision, not to the work. The work is fine. Getting shit done and all that's not a problem. That's like you're still learning to trust yourself to do the things, right? But to hold your vision and to keep moving towards it from us, because we didn't know anybody in franchising. Nobody. I don't know how do I build a franchise? If you give me the list, I can figure out the list, right? You can figure out those things. Tasks are easy, but how do you actually pull this thing together? And so for us, it was vital when we made the decision that we were going all in. We're investing all of our own retirement, our home portfolio, everything into building this. I said to Darren, we need somebody that can help see us through because we don't know any. My friends and family, they don't understand it. They half of them don't even understand what I do.
Yeah, same.
So when they're like, "Oh, you poor entrepreneur, you're tired," they don't get it. Or when you're like, "I just hired this agency and spent $10,000 onboarding them and had them doing work for 3 months and they shit the bed and we lost all these leads and all this money and time." People don't understand that pain.
No.
And then inevitably you end up beating yourself up. You're like, "Oh, why didn't," especially when you're like me, you're highly intuitive, you really rely on gut instinct. You're like, why didn't that ping for me sooner? Why did it take that long? So
Right.
I think for us, that was a big value. Moving forward in this business, we also then found a consultant that was industry specific. So for us, that was probably the biggest help.
Yeah.
They,
Franchising specific.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And he helped us to really leapfrog that saying the who, not how.
Yeah.
That was really him. Him was the who, not the how. So that combined with our mastermind for Darren and I has not impacted our business with an ROI. In that sense, it's impacted our ability to stay the course.
Yeah. And meet, like you said, other like-minded people who maybe have drastically different businesses, but can relate to the shit. I just invested $10,000 agency and it didn't work out. And I want to have a little pity party and anybody else feel me. And it's, oh yeah, there too. Been there, done that. It's like that camaraderie or like somebody to commiserate with for a moment. And then also, Kayla and I talk a lot with our clients about, have you ever heard the terminology champagne girlfriends?
No.
Yeah, I think a mastermind, the right mastermind with the right group of people, allows you to fulfill this concept of champagne girlfriends that it was taught to me about 5 or 6 years ago, of especially women who get really successful, accomplish a lot, have big wins in a financial sense or a revenue sense. My business just crossed 1 million or whatever it is. And people don't really want to celebrate that. They don't get it. They aren't there to cheer you on. And then you don't want to get to the top of the mountain and be like, I got to the top of the fucking mountain and I'm by myself. So,
Yes.
like, having champagne girlfriends to
Yeah.
be like, you just made 1 million? Congratulations. Not, oh, must be nice, or how did you do that?
Yeah.
Tori.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think choosing the right mastermind, like knowing what your goal is, I think it's really hard if you're going to join a mastermind to have hold space for you as the business owner and you also want clients out of it. And the reason why I say that is because if some of your clients are in the same room that you're needing that support from, you will naturally compromise your support because your client's in there.
Right.
Or if you're like, oh, my client will understand, it's like your client, I get your client knows that you're human, you will have struggles, but you also don't want them to lose confidence
Yeah. Yeah,
or feel like
exactly.
that maybe they're going to be a burden on you because you're going through a hard time. So now they're not going to come to you. I've been really careful. Our services are different, right? We're selling a business opportunities. Finding clients is we don't do things like we network for building the franchise partners. So
Mhm.
some of the masterminds, there's one I'm in, it's a network one. Build franchise partners in Canada specifically, and I monitor how I show up in that one.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's really important to know that.
Yeah, I think so too. I think joining any mastermind or coaching program, like something where it's group, it's not one to one. Yeah, you do want to be really intentional about why you're there and why you're signing up with that particular coach or the type of environment you're putting yourself in. I think about when Kayla and I were considering joining this mastermind, we were to the place where we were like, we want to work with coaches who are so far
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah.
Not, oh, we can learn one, two, or three things and then be at the same position as them. We were like, we want to be pushed so much more than we've been pushed and to be challenged. And I think about Chris saying things like, I heard it on his podcast the other day, think about the quality of your questions. And I think like when you're really intentional about choosing the right mentor or coach, Chris is not here to build my business and I'm not here to build my client's business. He's not building your business, but I want him to push me
Yeah.
towards the things that I'm saying I want to do. And I think that's what joining a mastermind is really all about, and having those connections and networks, right? I think about how Kayla and I, after we met you and Darren, like we, without like intentionally being like, who can we refer them to or who should start a
Yeah.
door gurus? It's just now you're just in the back of our mind and we're like thinking about our clients that do like building and real estate investing. And we're like, oh, that would be a good connection. It's like, I think that you, inside of masterminds, you meet people and naturally some people you just magnetize with and you're like, I'm going to refer them to this person. But it doesn't necessarily mean that like we have to go start a door gurus, but we
Right,
might
right,
think,
right.
oh,
Yeah.
there's the right person for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, the networking. That's that networking piece, right? There's people in your, and it may come up, it may not. And it's not that's the intention, but yeah, when you spend some time getting to know people in a different capacity, they just end up populating your awareness in a
Yeah.
different way. And you're like, "Oh, wait, I never saw this way." And this is why
Yeah.
I tell people when our franchise partners talk about hiring, who do we hire? Where do we get these people? I don't even know people. And I said, yeah, but you're starting to ask the questions, which means your unconscious mind is starting to bring this stuff to the forefront, and you're going to start seeing things a little differently. As you're starting to ask the questions, that means that next that different level of awareness is there, and then you see things differently, things that were already there that you just connect them. I just want to say another thing about masterminds, about really masterminds that stretch you and about the dollar investment, because a lot of people are always like, I don't know, what was my ROI? Am I going to get money back? Blah, 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 blah. Here's one of the things that investing in Chris's mastermind, which is the elite level, and we all know that it's for, especially for Canadians, it's even more, but it's
Pretty penny.
a pretty penny. Yeah, you need to think about it. I always say, oh, I've wasted thousands of dollars. No, I've wasted hundreds of dollars before on unused gym memberships. If I sign up for something that's a couple $100, it's not going to wreck me if I don't use it. No.
Totally.
How many unused spa lady memberships did I pay for?
Yeah.
But one of the things about signing up for something that's a stretch financially, and I don't mean putting you in a bad space where you're having a hard time, like, what is the ROI? Like, is this the value? Is there enough value there for us to happen? The other thing it does is it expands your capacity in money mindset.
100%.
It expands that capacity because now, say something might cost you, you think of investing $30,000 in something, and it's like you've never invested at that level. It's like it freaks you out. You're like, that's somebody's part-time salary or a car or whatever it is. You might have the money, but you've never used it in these ways. And I think that has had a bigger impact for Darren and I over building this business, because in franchising, everything is super expensive and it's really easy to want to bootstrap everything, especially when you have confidence. You're like, oh, I'll just do that. I'll just do that. I'll just do that. I'll just do that.
Yeah.
But it takes too long.
Yeah. And it goes right back to your thing of who, not how.
Right? So when you're investing in a mastermind that feels financially like a stretch, and I want to just reiterate again, I'm not saying go mortgage the house to do it, but if you have the ability, but it's that dollar amount, you're like, oh, it really does help stretch you, because how else does something that's 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, $100,000, it seems like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money, but when you're already stretched into that, oh, it becomes the normal.
Oh, for sure. And I feel My Line Purpose is a very similar model to in that we're business coaches. So there's what it's done for us is just like, oh my goodness, no, we're not going to lower our prices or discount this thing. Or we're really thinking about like the cost of our program for a year is like the cost of in a month. And we're like, yeah, there's literally no way that we're going to discount the price of our program or give it to somebody for a little bit off because they're saying that they can't afford it. Okay, I'm sorry that you can't afford it in this moment in time. You can go figure it out, but like we're holding the standard that this is the value of the transformation, the quality of the connections and the friendships and our time. And I feel like I've been able to hold that faith so much stronger because of the output of investment we're making now. I'm like, no, like we pay a good amount of money for coaching and we get to get paid a good amount of money for coaching.
Yeah, but I would even go a little bit further and challenge you a little bit further on that rationale, because Nicole, listen, like I said, we sell franchise, so business, we sell business, right?
Yeah.
And if somebody comes to me and I do all the recruiting, I have spent thousands of hours and interviewed thousands of entrepreneurs, wannabe entrepreneurs over the last few years. And when I have people come to me and say, and our business model buy-in for a business is very inexpensive on a business level. And I will have people say, I can't afford that. And that, right? Or what do I get for that? The other question I get a lot. And here's always, at first I wasn't like that, because at first I still felt like I was in a place where I had to almost justify or give the spiel. But here's what I say now. Then perhaps this is not the opportunity for you right now. Love it if when your circumstances change and you feel that this is something you want to look into more, I am happy to take you through the process. But right now, that's what it is. I don't even give a, yeah, but you get blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but you blah, blah, blah. There is a certain, and I think some of that comes with, for us, by bringing on a partner, it's like a partnership, right? Kayla, right? It's a partnership. We're being very specific. And there's also this programming everybody has had that we have to undo of, what do I get for what I pay for?
Yeah. And I often think, I don't know how for us, I don't know how we put a price tag on particularly like the community. I don't know how to tell somebody this community will change your life. It literally changes everybody's life, but the price tag isn't the community. I don't know. Actually, we had coaches last year. They were the worst and we'd never hire them again or recommend them. But truly, it was like such a shitty investment. It was 6 months. And they were like, you can't sell your community. Don't talk about community. People don't want to buy community. Don't make that part of your marketing. And we were like, our community is literally what has sold our entire business. People are like, this community is awesome. Get on the inside. I'm like, that's quite arguably like the worst advice ever, but okay. So I don't know how to market it, but I'm just going to keep saying it's the best.
This is what I mean. So your community has become your brand.
Oh, 100%.
So instead of marketing, the community is the brand. So that's what you're really marketing, is the brand.
Right.
So whether it's, right. So taking the characteristics, because we all know a brand is not your font and your color, blah, blah, but taking those characteristics, and that's what you're marketing, that brand. That's the brand you're marketing. And it's not this is what you get. We know how transfer, knowing all that, it's just like, this is what it is. If you're ready, here we are. Yeah. If you're not, great, come back to us when you are. These are the requirements. We need you to be all in. We need you to attend these sessions. We need you to write this, and then we're good to go. I think the understanding of financial readiness in investment in a business is something that really needs more education and awareness, that there is a financial readiness, because with that comes the commitment and the confidence that's going to bring forth the changes.
Yeah.
So even though you're selling coaching and group coaching, or one-to-one coaching, and we're selling franchise opportunities, they're still essentially the same thing. You're delivering a service, building a brand, people's lives are changing. Yeah. You're serving people like it. So there are a lot of similarities.
Now, I think like for people listening to this, we don't technically know who our listeners are, right? Like it doesn't tell you, Kim listened to your podcast today.
Instagram stories, so you can see you along.
Exactly. But we can look at statistics, age, sex, location, that sort of thing. And we talk all about entrepreneurship. That's what we're all about on the show. And I think that a lot of, if I had to take a guess, entrepreneurs listening to this are more in the online space. And so maybe franchising is like piquing their curiosity right now and maybe trying to wrap their head around like, how did you get started in this? And what does that look like? So to make it clear for people, because Door Gurus is new, we'll ask this question in a couple of years and everybody will be like, Door Gurus, what would you say is like maybe a Canadian franchise, or it could be an American one, that you think is doing it really well?
That's doing it really well. 1-800-GOT-JUNK.
Okay, say more.
So 1-800-GOT-JUNK is a Canadian brand, right from Vancouver. Brian Scudamore. Yeah, you'd be familiar with him because you know the Mint Ladies.
Yeah.
Struck a deal. But way before that, Brian Scudamore and 1-800-GOT-JUNK. And this really also is the inspiration behind us doing this model. When we had the aha moment of, hey, we could teach people to make really great money, this was the inspiration. I had heard him on a podcast with Candy Valentino, and he was talking about his story. So Brian Scudamore is from Vancouver. He was in college. He was wanting to drop out. He was in a McDonald's drive-through, and he either saw something or whatever the idea was. He was like, hey, what if I start a business collecting junk? He had a pickup truck. He put a cardboard sign or something, maybe a piece of wood, right? Call, it was his phone number, call, pick up junk. He came from a very educated family, and that's really how he started his business.
I
And
love that he, no pun intended, but all the pun intended. I love that he did it scrappy, like just scrappy.
100% scrappy.
Hmm.
That's what he did. And he just started building it. But interestingly enough, he was in business for 8 years, I think 8 or 10 years before he started franchising. And he was $1 million business, I think 7 or 8 years, something like that. Again, he's a category creator. He has professionalized junk removal.
Yeah.
He had grown such a toxic culture
Mm,
inside of the business that he had to burn it all down
I didn't know
and
this.
start again.
I
Yeah.
don't really know much of his story. I just know
Yeah.
he's a dragon and has
Yeah.
lots of
And
money to
so,
invest and has
yeah.
money under junk.
Yeah. So he had to fire everybody and rebuild. And so
Hmm.
actually, our fractional COO worked with him, left his brand of companies 3 years ago. So
Wow.
yeah, I call it his pedigree. And so Brian calls it the beer and barbecue test because he created a company that had such toxic culture and then had to bring it all down and then rebuild.
Okay.
And it's all about people, the people first, the culture. So I would say, and I'm sure there's one-off stories that can contradict that because everybody, all the experiences, but he's a $700 million brand now.
It's not insane.
It's crazy. It's, yeah, he's a dragon, people that he's invested in. And his story really was the inspiration for our mobile model of our business. How do we professionalize door repair work? Really, it's doors. It's so freaking boring. It's insignificant. Like all those. I always said that my whole life. Then I'm like, wait, that actually made me a multimillionaire. It's
Or
all because of it. Darren always says people see doors, he sees dollars. But Brian Scudamore was really our inspiration. And listening to his story, and then I bought his book, gave it to Darren, who's not really a big reader. Darren really connected with him because Brian wasn't traditional school either. ADD, tons of schools. Like Darren, same thing, right? He's not in formal. I always say Darren's the smartest uneducated man I know. He blows me away with how smart he is, but he dropped out of school, buy his car and go into the family business. So
right.
I would say Brian Scudamore at 1-800 Got Junk is a really good example of franchising, a mobile model of professionalizing something that really was very obscure, it's garbage, like all that kind of stuff. And I know your audience might be a lot of online entrepreneurs. The thing about it, business is still the same regardless of how it's delivered. And that ultimately it's just, and if you're online business, your vehicle is the internet.
Yes.
That's how it's being delivered, but you're still delivering services. So there's still, those things all still apply.
Right.
What
We
I
all
love
have to know
about
sales. We all have to know marketing. We all have to know people.
Yeah, all those things. But what I love most about franchising that is easy to take away into any business is how can we create systems and processes that actually build us a business,
Mhm.
not a paycheck.
Yes. And so that you can actually enjoy your life and step away at some point. Like I know like you're still in foundational early days, but like building any business, we want to be able to think about like our business not being fully reliant on us, that it still serves people red carpet quality service, but it doesn't rely on you being the present person doing it. Systems.
Yeah, and that's what I love most about the franchise model is, and I would say this too, if you're a sole owner operator, a solopreneur, you're a solopreneur. And I say this to our franchise partners too. You might be an independent worker, but you're
Mhm.
not truly a business because you could not unless you've developed products that can continue without you. That's really what you do. If I shut down services or if I went on a 2-week holiday, does everything shut down with that? What are those
Right.
parts that are right? And not trying to pull the person from the business, but just helping you understand that the systems are what will help your business to continue to go and grow without you having to handle every single detail. You can also employ somebody else to do that. If you give up a little bit of your profit, allow somebody else to do that. It gives you the autonomy that you truly want. Yes, there's some hard days where we're working long hours and every day and all that. But I have the autonomy now to book days off because I have team that is still working at some of those systems. So I think that's what I love most about franchising is I take that lens because I do a lot of mentoring on the side and that's how the lens I use.
Hmm.
What's the system you have in place? What was the failure? Why did this fail? What happened that this failed? So we can build in a process to catch that earlier.
To the
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if you're in the online space, you could do that too.
Oh, for sure. The very first coach we ever had back in 2021, she challenged all of us in the coaching program to imagine that you were being forced to take a year sabbatical. Your business still has to run.
Oh,
What will you do? And Kayla and I worked our asses off to be like, we're going to be able to do this. And we put every system, automation, sequence in place in our business so that when it came back around and she said, okay, could you have 100 people join your business today and nothing would break and everybody would get served and they'd be on board at the same and da 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 da, we could say yes. And it felt amazing. And then flash forward into 2022, I was like, I'm going to take a month off and go around Europe on my honeymoon. And then I got back, and then Kayla took a few months off with mat leave. And we were like, oh, we just felt like things just kept running because
yeah.
we had systems. And we always say to people, like, it doesn't have to be complicated. Just simple systems.
Yeah.
Yes, whether you're a franchisee, whether you're a network marketing, whether you're a product-based business, a service-based business, put some systems in place, like it will save you. And I like to say that like structure actually creates freedom.
It really does. And Darren, who has been against, it's so funny that Darren's franchising because he's, don't put me in structure. I don't want structure. I need to be free to do what I want. And it's great. He has a lot of energy with that and he can get a lot done, but no one could ever, he could never pass that down that way. No one can ever. So he's finally starting to learn and really appreciates the structure of the systems, especially in training, because he's a master. He has 48 years. How do you get all that knowledge and create some kind of standard system? We had to actually bring a professional in. Because him and I, as husband and wife, I'm trying to pull that information. And he's, you don't understand, blah, blah, it's all over. There's no way, blah, blah, blah. We're fighting. But he now even is, wow, this was so hard for me to be structured in, but now I really see the productivity in it. And then how now he's looking, now when our son comes on, he can pass this down in a way that makes more sense.
I was like Darren. Yeah, I was totally like Darren, and Kayla was like, trust me, you're going to be really happy when we have these systems in place. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, I love being a systems run business.
Because I think inherently we all we all are kind of, humans are born to kind of toil, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's caveman style, hunter gatherer, whatever it is, we are really born to take care of ourselves. And I think ultimately everybody wants the autonomy. They say freedom, but I really think it's autonomy to be able to construct and build and do all those things and work with a purpose, work with a passion, have all that, have that autonomy, because you're going to have to do it anyway. And that's the piece that systems really allow you to have, is the autonomy to be able to be like, oh, I'm going to go on mat leave, or I want to go on a sabbatical, right? You have those things in place to support the process. I think there's this fallacy of, oh, business is easy. You just get it up and running and then you neglect it. You can go off and do all the things and it'll just continue producing for you. I don't think that's reasonable in any world.
No. And then do you really care about your business? You're like, I just want to build it and walk away, but not it being 100% reliant on you.
Yeah.
Okay, one last question, then I want to go to where can people find you and how can they work with you and how can they learn about Door Gurus and read your book and listen to your podcast and all the things. But before all of that, what would you say makes a really great leader?
Somebody asked me this the other day. I would say first and foremost, emotional intelligence, really having the ability to reflect, self-reflect. That I look for that more than anything. I want to see that people can self-reflect, that they can read the room and understand where the emotional level is and be able to conduct themselves in a way where, I'm not saying where emotion doesn't rule, because business is very personal, but where they're able to communicate in a way that doesn't tear apart other people. That level of emotional intelligence to me is required as a leader. That's the biggest, most important thing for me. I'm not really looking at how you're influencing others or what your title is. I have someone here who wants to be in leadership, but there's still some there's still some maturing emotionally, like the emotional intelligence that needs to happen for her to lead the way I value leadership. So the onus of responsibility is on me, the leader. And Darren and I have different views. And that was one of the big, Darren, it comes from old school. For him, leadership is somebody who does the things.
Okay. Regardless of how they're feeling about it or their energy or whatever, just like there's a task list or whatever, they
Yeah.
take action.
Yeah, so it's very interesting because he's coming from building a toxic, his past business was very toxic leadership, everybody generations. And so he's unwinding that, right? And I run business very different, but I also invest in the emotional intelligence, right? For the team, because this
Right.
is what I want from you. If you want to be a leader, this is how I need you to evolve. So for me, that question, most important thing is emotional intelligence, the ability to self-reflect.
I feel like that's what I am like looking for. And obviously, I'm very happily married. And that's what I'm looking for now in a life partner, now in my friendships. Can we go on an emotional, like deeper level? Can you pause and reflect? Can you take responsibility? I think it really says a lot about somebody and especially people who are like actively self committed to doing that work.
Yeah. That to me makes all the difference in the world. I have a dear friend. We've been friends for 6 years now, and we've gone through there's been some hard moments, but because we both have done independently work and continue to do that kind of self-reflective deep dive, what are the things happening, like all that kind of stuff, instead of making it reactive, I guess
Mm.
that we're able to navigate those moments
Yeah. Yeah. It's
because
so
we can honor
important.
it for ourselves, because you can honor it for yourselves, then you can honor it in somebody else, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I love this. Okay, so for everybody listening, why don't you tell us where can people find you? And for people who are listening and they're like, okay, maybe I want to know more about the franchise. Maybe they want to listen to your podcast, read your book, hang out with you on social media, all the things.
So we're pretty much everywhere. Yeah, everywhere most people are hanging out. We have a podcast, Mr. and Mrs. CEO. So that's on all the listening platforms. Typically, it's my husband and I bring on guests or we'll do solo episodes. It's all over the place. It's really just life's journeys and stories, but
Mhm.
always centered around entrepreneurship and family and business because that's our experience. Our book, Awkward Family Dinners, is a very small book, so it's not overwhelming. And I'll tell you what it is. It's funny about when I read it back, I was like, actually, I think my ego got in the way. So this is a little hint when you're writing books, you got to remember this is not your final book. It's
Okay.
usually just a snapshot of a
Yeah.
certain portion. Because at some point you have to have like beginning and ends. When I read it back, I said to my husband, "Oh my gosh, this is actually a book about our worst leadership experiences."
Sometimes it's good to share those parts.
Really, it's a book about all these different like landmines we experience both from our own and really because that's how we all learn as humans, right? From your own mistakes, experiences. So the book is it's really grounded, it's anecdotal about our experiences collectively, and we share vulnerably some of them, including the lawsuit when our family filed a suit against us. And when my daughter quit, this one was really bad. She quit, or she was in our business for 7 years. She was supposed to be there for 10. She ran the whole thing and gave us 2 weeks notice and left. And she's the firstborn. She's a child that's obligated to us she has, I'm
Right.
obligated to please my parents for the rest of my life. Yeah.
I know that.
It was ugly. My reaction was ugly. Her reaction was, and so the book has that. So it's funny. But it also has, because I value the reflection piece so much, it also has prompts in there for you if you're a stakeholder in a family business, whether you're an owner or an employee or whoever coming up, for you to ask the questions to start affecting change where you're at.
Mm.
Because sometimes we feel like we don't actually have the power. Anyway, so that's that book. You can get that on Amazon. And it's a small book. Literally, you can read it on a 2-hour plane trip. Where else? Instagram, we hang out on Instagram. Door Gurus. So Door Gurus is a trade company, right? It's a mobile door repair. Has its own Instagram, doorgurus.ca. We do a lot of fun marketing on there. We get a lot of traction. People, if they're interested, or if they know people that are interested in getting into the home services, which is a $200 billion industry, and they know people that are wanting to invest in something like that or are in that kind of area and want to get into business, check us out. I'm always happy. I do all the recruiting. I'm not willing to let that go yet. Feel free to reach out. And then my Instagram is kimberly.hiebert. I'm sure it'll be in your show notes. But yeah, LinkedIn, Instagram, all those places.
Perfect. Yeah. For
Yeah.
everybody listening, we'll have everything linked there. Super easy to click and go check you out. And I'm so excited to maybe see you this summer. I hope you and Darren make your way to the island here. And yeah, I'm just grateful that you were able to carve out the time and come on today and share with everybody a snippet of your story. I feel like we could talk for hours and hours. But yeah, I just want to say thanks, Kim, for coming on today.
Well, thank you so much for hosting me. I loved it.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Sharing with you.
Okay, thanks everybody for listening. Make sure that you go follow along Kim's Instagram, check out her podcast, grab that book, and reach out if whatever you enjoyed from this episode, let her know that you listened, and yeah, build a new connection from here. Okay, have a great day, everyone.